We all know how some ultimates are good and some are kinda terrible. Languid Eye, however, is by far probably one of the strongest ultimates in the game, though you might not fully understand how strong this ultimate actually is. To go over the basics, Languid Eye is a DPS ultimate from the Arcanist Herald of the Tome skill line. It costs 175 ultimate and backloads almost all of its damage because of a 7% ramp that it has. This ramp works by taking 7% of the initial damage tick and adding it to each damage instance. This stops it from scaling exponentially. To better understand this, let's do some math really quick. Let's say Languid Eye does 4,000 damage on the initial hit. If Languid Eye truly ramped by 7% every single tick, we would end up after 12 ticks with this insane number. This really isn't fair, and it explains why they chose to ramp it the way they did. The way Languid Eye actually ramps is, you get the initial damage tick, you get 7% of that. You add that to the next tick, and you keep adding it to every tick after. You do end up getting a little bit less than 7% every tick as it goes up and up and up. However, it is still a pretty good damage increase. Now that that's out of the way, however, let's compare it to other ultimates like Meteor, Elemental Rage, and Soul Assault. We can see, for the most part, Languid Eye does around the same damage, if not a little less than these other ultimates. Soul Assault, however, is just here because per tick it's kind of funny. I now want to go over the reason none of this matters because of one item in the game, Cryptcannon. Cryptcannon allows you to get another ult within a very short time period of casting the first. This is important later. If you want the short of it, Cryptcannon allows Languid Eyes to do 50% more when casting two of them simultaneously. Now for the more detailed explanation. Languid Eye ramps, we all know this. It does more damage on the back end than it does on the front end. However, there is a weird interaction between Languid Eye and Languid Eye. When you cast a second Languid Eye during the initial cast, which by the way you can do this by double tapping your ultimate or holding it and then letting it go, it will, instead of moving it, cast another one. However, what you probably don't expect is the fact that the second Languid Eye will actually inherit the ramp value of the first. This means that while both of them are ticking, they will both increase each other's damage to a point. We roughly found that they will stop ramping at around a 100% damage value. However, this means that the second Languid Eye will be roughly 100% better than the original. While this technically isn't true, as the original will still ramp a little bit, having an entire Languid Eye do basically its max damage for the entire duration is kind of insane. I just quickly want to give my thoughts on this being able to exist and whether or not it's fair, I guess. I don't think fair is the right word, but you know, it is what it is. The languid ramping aspect of it is an interesting interaction that I think if you're capable of building towards it is kind of cool that it inherits it. I think it's not supposed to, but it's cool that it does. Cryptcannon, on the other hand, I think is one of the better designed mythics in the game. Maybe it's a little unfair. I don't really know. Don't really care either way, but it's just an interesting mythic, and I would hate to see it get, you know, whatever ZOS does to mythics at this point. Overall, though, this is probably the single strongest setup in the game right now, where you can just dump almost all of your damage instantly, and especially since you're using Herald of the Tome, you'll also have Beam going off at the same time, which just gives you an insane ramp at the start of fights. One thing to note too about this is it only works really in 4-man, as generating the ultimate you need in 12-man is almost impossible, so it's not really all that useful in trials. But I hope this video helped someone, or you enjoyed just learning about some weird interaction in the game, but thanks for watching.